Good afternoon, everybody. I think everybody that we're expecting is here, but do we have any? Are you ready to record? Okay. Just 1 minute, right? Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Do we have any apologies? Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we've late apologies for Councillor Scroggy, who's unfortunately unavailable this afternoon, but and obviously no substitute.
Thank you very much. We also received in advance from Clive Tarsley Hinton, as he's away, and I'm not sure if Councillor Bosworth will be joining us. It is her birthday today, so perhaps she has other things on her mind. I will possibly forgive her. So, to approve as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 10th of January. It only seems like the other day, because it was only a few days ago. Would someone like to move those as a correct record, unless there are any changes that people want to notify? Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Would someone second? All those in favour of approving the minutes? Thank you very much. Are there any declarations of interest? No, thank you. So I'm going to move on to the review of the taxi licence fee setting. A detailed report for us, and I'm going to ask Mike, as he was responsible for making sure the report came to us, to present the report. I am making the assumption that you've all read it thoroughly and worked out any questions, and so I'm sure it will only be a very minor referral to the actual report, and we'll take any questions afterwards. So thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. So the purpose of this report is to update members on the review of taxi licensing fee setting and to report on the findings of the independent assessment of the fee setting process by CIPFA. The fixing of fees for hackney carriage and private hire drivers, vehicles and operators is a function of this committee as laid out in the Local Authorities Functions and Responsibilities England Regulations 2000. Sections 53 and 70 of the Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1976 allows the Council to charge fees for the grant of licences in respect of hackney carriage and private hire drivers, vehicles and operators. The legislation specifies the elements that can be included in the calculation, and the Council cannot make a profit from licence fees, and any surplus must be carried forward and given back over the 3-year cycle. The Council also has a choice whether or not to carry forward any deficits over that 3-year cycle. In order to ensure compliance with the Act and relevant general principles developed through case law, the Council should hold separate memorandum accounts for drivers, vehicles and operators. Historically, the Council has not held these memorandum accounts in this manner, but members in the audience, it must be recognised that overall the Council has always subsidised the taxi licence service. A recommendation made to the Environment and Licensing Committee in May 2022 was to hold the fees for 2022-23 at the same value as that charged in 2021-22. And the purpose of that was to undertake a detailed review of its fee setting process. This internal review was conducted last year, following which the Council then instructed CIPFA to undertake an independent detailed assessment of the results and the process. The report in front of you at paragraph 4.2 shows the financial findings of both assessments. It shows that the Council has undercharged for drivers' licences between 2016-17 through to 2021-22 by £430,728. So that is an undercharge there, Chair. It has, however, overcharged for vehicle licences between 2016-17 through to 2021-22 for all but 1 year, which was 2017-18. In total, the overcharge there is at £124,186. The Council has also overcharged for operators' licences between the same period, 2016-17, through to 2021-22, totalling £12,542. CIPFA has reviewed the methodology and confirmed these calculations, and in the process has made 5 recommendations as reported in paragraph 121. CIPFA recommend that the Council should continue to maintain a separate memorandum accounts, and we will do. The Council should consider phasing in the new level of fees, and there'll be more to come on the second report on the agenda. The Council should present a breakdown of costs, potential income, the 3-year position, and the likely subsidy required to members of this committee. And again, we endeavour to do that on a yearly basis when we bring the fee setting report. The Council should accurately monitor time allocations against each type of licence, and we will do that in the course of reviewing the fee setting. And the Council could address the charging of corporate overheads to the service over time, and that's something we will think about in the future. So, Chair, as a result of the overcharging for the vehicle and operators licences for the said period, 2016-17 through to 2021-22, the Council is making arrangements for a refund, including interest, to be made. A budget of £150,000 has been approved earlier today by Cabinet for this purpose. And just finally, Chair, any under-over recovery for the current year, and that being 2022-23, will be dealt with in the fee calculation for 2024-25, because it's too soon to do it for the 23-24 year. So I'll leave it there, Chair, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Brooks, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Mike, for the report and for everybody who was involved in compiling it. Thank you. I've read it carefully, and obviously this report looks back on everything that has happened. But we've obviously now got to move forward and look forward. So have we learnt from the mistakes of the past, and do we now have procedures in place to make sure that this sort of thing doesn't happen again going forward?
Would you like to? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, most definitely, Councillor, yes. So as part of the detailed review, we now have an agreed methodology. We did have one before, but this is a more detailed one that reflects the current circumstances and conditions of how we deliver that fee setting process and the service we offer to deliver the taxi licences. So we've looked at that service, looked at provisions. We have modernised the service, so all those things have been taken into account, and further modernisation may or may not happen in the future. So again, we will take account of those. What we've learnt is we are going to look at this on an annual basis in detail, as we've said, and what CIP has recommended is the detailed timesheets will be checked and reviewed every year as well. We will be continuously showing the 3 separate memorandum accounts in the future for the 3 different types of licences. We will be moving to full cost recovery. Clearly the drivers is quite a contribution at the moment, so it's something we are working towards full cost recovery on that basis. But it's, yes, we have learnt, and looking forward we will deliver this. It was an error, we've held our hands up, and we are making full endeavours to put that right now by issuing the refunds.
Thank you very much, that's very reassuring. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Martin-Smith.
Thank you, Chair. This is all very embarrassing, isn't it? You've talked about, Chief Executive, you've talked about moving forward, but we can't forget what's happened before. Gedling Borough Council's been collecting and overcharging for over 6 years, and that's only part of the exercise that you've undertaken. It could well have been going on beyond that. I think we can best describe this as maladministration, and at worst, I wonder whether fees have been collected unlawfully. 150,000 would go a long way in my ward, and I'm sure it would go a long way in everybody else's ward in this room. I don't want this to be swept under the carpet. I'm assuming a thorough investigation of why it went wrong is being undertaken.
By direct, please.
Thank you, Chair.
Borough.
I think maladministration is a strong word. You know, there is legal guidance behind that, so I wouldn't say it's maladministration at all. Yes, as we've already said, errors were made, and moving forward, off our own back, we're putting that right, and we are going to, you know, hold the separate memorandum accounts moving forward. So the 150,000 is there to refund, and that's what we will be doing, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Sam Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Just following on from that, I think we need a better answer as to why this has been allowed to happen over 6 years, Chief Exec. I mean, it's taken a taxi driver that we as an authority license to bring this to our attention. That, quite frankly, is embarrassing. We're a service that we offer to those drivers, and they should get it at a fair cost, and it's not within their you know, we want them to go out and drive our residents around safely, not have to check that this authority is doing one of its basic requirements correctly. So can we have a clearer and better answer as to why this has been allowed to happen over 6 years, please? I take on board the learnings you've set out to Councillor Brooks, and I think that's great for going forward. But simple answer, simple question, simple answer. Why has it been allowed to happen for 6 years and not been picked up internally by this council? My second question is that you say we're going to refund the operators. How is that payment going to be done? Is it a one-off payment? Over 6 years, operators have probably come and gone. Do we have a list of all the operators that were in existence during that 6-year period? Will every single one of them get a refund, even if they've closed now or are no longer licensed by us? We're not going to miss people out who have been done out of money.
Are you happy to take that direct? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We must remember here, as I've said in the introduction, we have subsidised the taxi licensing service overall. So, you know, it's not as though we've deliberately set out to do this. It is an error. We've admitted it's an error, and we are endeavouring to put that right. So, but I think the key point here is we have subsidised the taxi licensing service over those years between drivers, operators and, you know, vehicles. Sorry, what was the second question?
On the refund and operators, there'll obviously be operators that no longer are in business now that probably were during the 6-year period. Will they be getting refunds, and how is that going to be processed?
So,
Purely because the Chief Executive hasn't necessarily been involved. There are discussions in play for how it is going to be delivered. That's why there's no more information other than there is a process that's going to be put in place, but it is certainly the intention that every single operator and proprietor who had a vehicle licence that has been affected will be able to claim for a refund that they would be due. So yes, whether they are still running or not, it is certainly the intention to make that available to all.
Thank you, that's reassuring.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chair. The Chief Executive has largely made the point that I was going to make in response to Councillor Smith, which is that he seems to be confusing drivers and vehicles. And you know, to reiterate the fact that we have undercharged drivers, it is in with the other two elements of the licensing scheme, that i.e. vehicles and operators, where there has been an overcharge. But overall, we have subsidised the system for a number of years.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Does anyone else wish to make comment? Councillor Martin Smith.
This phrase on subsidising has been used a couple of times now. The council may well have been subsidising, but haven't the operators been subsidising the taxi service as well by the tune of 150,000?
I think you're right, yes, and that's why we're putting it right. They will be contacted. And to my knowledge, no operators have gone out of business over the last 6 years, but this will be checked thoroughly. So thank you. Put the microphone back on. On page 9, we are only asked to note the report, so having asked our questions, I can thank you, Mike, for answering those queries. And we move on now to actually setting the licence fee. And I understand you're going to present this report because it relates back to that whole exercise. So thank you.
So, thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report is to approve the fees for taxi driver operators and vehicle licensings for the year 2023-24, which will be subject to advertisement requirements being satisfied. Also, to approve a proposed increase in general taxi licensing fees for 2023-24. As just discussed in the previous report on this agenda, the revised methodology of calculation of fees has been applied to the fees setting process for this year, 2023-24. Once again, Chair, it is useful to reiterate that the Council cannot make a profit from licence fees and there must be a carry forward of any surplus. It is also useful to note that the Council is allowed to recover any deficit carried forward on the 3-year cycle, and full cost recovery on each separate taxi account does remain the objective of this Council. However, a decision has been made not to carry forward the £74,415 deficit on drivers' licences, which occurred in 2021-22, as this would have had a significant impact on the driver's licence fee moving forward, and we don't want to do that, Chair. So the proposed fees for 2023-24 are calculated on a full recovery cost basis are set out in Appendix 1. The exception to this is for driver's licences, where, as I've just said, moving to full cost recovery in a single year would require huge increases, so instead the fees reflect this recovery over a 3-year cycle. The Act permits the Council to set vehicle and operator licence fees, but where this fee exceeds £25, then a public notice of the proposed fee must be advertised in a local newspaper circulating in the district and borough. There is, however, no statutory requirement to publicise any changes in the level of fees for taxi drivers' licences. In terms of consultation, Chair, Gedling will, however, publish details of the proposed fees for vehicle operator and also the driver licence fees for 2023-24, and will provide for a period of 28 days from the date of publication for any objections to the fees to be lodged with the Council. Any such objections will be considered by the Council before the proposed fees are finally determined. In relation to the general taxi fees proposed in Appendix 1B, there is no requirement again to advertise any increase in fees, and a 5% fee increase is proposed, which will contribute to the full cost recovery process as part of the memorandum accounts. And Chair, just to be clear on the numbers, the report, paragraph 4.1, sets out the budgeted expenditure for each type of licence and its proposed income recovery. It is anticipated that a deficit of £43,500 will be carried forward for driver licences into 2024-25 for recovery, but you will note, Chair, that both the vehicle and operator licence accounts are budgeted to break even with the proposed fees. Happy to answer any questions, Chair.
Thank you very much. So are there any questions? You have the actual licence fee rises in the appendix, and we do usually have a couple of queries about those, but if everybody... No? It looks like a couple of people are still reading the paper, so I'll give you a minute or two if that's what you want, Councillor Smith. Would you like a minute or two, or are you okay? So does anyone have any questions? So would someone like to move that we approve the setting of the accounts going out to consultation? You may remember that for the last 2 years, I think it may have been 3, the drivers have asked, after consultation, that we didn't accept the full recommendation, which could be one of the reasons why we have made the loss on the drivers' fees. So I'm now going to ask that we approve. I saw Councillor Wilkinson move and Councillor Brooks second, so I'm going to ask that we approve the setting of the fees this afternoon. Those in favour, please show. That's unanimous, so thank you very much for that. Thank you. Email the end of last week advising of a change that has been requested.
Yeah, we need to exclude the...
Yes, and because it is a private matter, we have to exclude the press and public. So would someone move that we exclude the press and public under the usual regulation? Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Seconded. Councillor Ellis, thank you very much. Those in favour of excluding the press and public, thank you very much. That again was unanimous.